The sun rose over the green hills of New Horizon. The human colony was waking up to what seemed like any other day. Children ate breakfast with their families before heading to school. Parents prepared for work in labs, farms, and offices across. The settlement. New Horizon was home to 30,000 families who had left Earth to build a better life. The planet had clean air, blue skies, and enough room for everyone to live well. It was the newest and most distant human colony, only 15 years old. Captain Samantha Wright yawned as she entered the small security outpost that protected New Horizon. The colony was so far from any known alien territories that her job was usually quiet. She checked the long-range scanners out of habit rather than worry. "Captain, you should see this," said Officer Ben Miller, pointing at his screen. "We have multiple objects entering the system." Samantha leaned over his shoulder, her coffee forgotten in her hand. "How many?" "At least 30 large ships. They're not broadcasting any identification codes." Samantha's stomach tightened. New Horizon had only 2 small defense ships. They were meant for stopping smugglers, not fighting battles. "Send an emergency alert to Earth. Then contact all schools and public buildings. Tell them to activate shelter. Protocols," she ordered, her voice steady despite her fear. On the main colony screen, she tracked the unknown ships as they moved quickly toward New Horizon. Their formation was too organized, too purposeful to be friendly. Across town, Lieutenant Alan Peterson was visiting his daughter Lily's school. He had promised to talk to her class about Earth's space program. The 6-year-old sat in a circle, around him asking questions about rockets and stars. His neural implant buzzed with an urgent message from Captain Wright. Alan read it and immediately stood up. "Ms. Garcia, I need to speak with you," he said to the teacher. He kept his voice calm, not wanting to scare the children. Before he could reach her, the school's alarm began to sound. The children looked around in confusion. "Everyone follow me to the shelter area," Ms. Garcia said, her training kicking in. "Remember our practice drills? Let's move quickly and quietly." Alan helped guide the children toward the underground shelter beneath the school. Similar scenes played out in all 23 schools across the colony, as teachers led their students to what they believed was safety. In orbit above New Horizon, Admiral Zeraxis stood on the bridge of the Imperial dreadnought Harbinger of Order. His tall, scaled body towered over the other Gursian officers. His 4 eyes narrowed as he studied the human settlement below. "Their defenses are minimal, Admiral," reported his second-in-command. "They have no orbital weapons and only 2 small ships." Zeraxis nodded. "The Emperor's orders are clear. The humans are expanding too quickly. They adapt and grow faster than any species we have encountered. If left unchecked, they could one day challenge the Empire. We could simply destroy the entire colony," suggested his weapons officer. "No," Zeraxis said coldly. "The Emperor wants a message sent. Not just destruction, but fear. Target their education centers first. Our scans show that's where most of their young are gathered." On the colony's small defense ship, Officer Julia Reed frantically tried to contact Earth. "This is New Horizon Colony requesting immediate assistance. Unknown fleet in orbit. Please respond." The only answer was static. The Imperial ships were blocking all outgoing communications. In the security outpost, Captain Wright watched in horror as the first Imperial ships moved into position above the colony. "They're targeting the schools," she whispered in disbelief. "Alan, are you seeing this?" Lieutenant Peterson had connected his neural implant to the colony's security network. From inside the school shelter, he could see what Captain Wright was seeing. "Sam, why would they target schools? There are only children here." "I don't know, but we need to get everyone out now. The shelters won't protect them from orbital bombardment." Alan looked at the hundreds of children packed into the shelter around him. There was nowhere to go, no time to evacuate. He made a quick decision. "Sam, I'm going to keep my neural link open. Record everything. If Earth needs to know what happened here, make sure this gets to them." "Alan, don't talk like that. Help is coming," Sam said, even though they both knew it wasn't true. The nearest human military fleet was days away. The first beam from the Imperial ships hit the largest school on the colony's north side. The building didn't explode as expected. Instead, a wave of neutron energy washed through it, specifically calibrated to target young human DNA. Through Alan's neural feed, Sam watched in horror as children simply dissolved into dust. Their small bodies fell apart at the molecular level, while the building remained almost untouched. The Empire wasn't destroying property. They were erasing a generation. One by one, the Imperial ships targeted each school. The Colonial Leadership Building, the hospital's pediatric wing, the community center where the youngest children played, anywhere children gathered. In the shelter with Alan, little Lily looked up at her father with frightened eyes. "Dad, what's happening? I don't feel good." Alan held his daughter close as the neutron wave passed through the shelter. His adult body could withstand the first wave, but Lily and the other children began to fade in his arms. "I love you, Lily," he whispered as his daughter's body turned to dust between his fingers. Through his neural implant, Captain Wright watched and recorded everything. Tears streamed down her face, but she kept the link active. Earth needed to see this. The universe needed to witness what was happening. All across New Horizon, the pattern repeated. In 15 minutes, 800,000 children between the ages of 4 and 17 were simply gone. Parents who had been at work returned to find only dust where their children should be. The silence that followed was the worst sound the universe had ever known. In orbit, Admiral Zaraxis surveyed the results with satisfaction. "Send the message to Earth," he ordered. The transmission was simple: submit or face extinction. What Zaraxis didn't know was that Captain Wright had managed to redirect a small communications probe out of the system before the attack. It carried Alan Peterson's neural recordings, evidence of what the Empire had done. As the probe raced toward Earth, it broadcast a single message on all frequencies. "They killed our children. 800,000 of them. Remember New Horizon." On Earth, military leaders gathered in shocked silence as the first images arrived. The recording showed children disintegrating in their classrooms, in playgrounds, in shelters. It showed parents finding piles of dust where their children had been. Admiral Frank Gardner, head of Earth's Defense Force, watched the footage with a face like stone. When it ended, he stood up slowly. "Send a message to all human colonies and ships," he said quietly. "As of this moment, we are at war." Around the table, the other leaders nodded. Humanity had been patient. Humanity had been peaceful. That time was over. The Empire had just made the worst mistake in its 12,000-year history. They had awakened something they didn't understand. And soon, very soon, the entire galaxy would hear humanity's response. 3 days after the massacre at New Horizon, Earth was still in shock. Billions of people watched the neural recordings from Lieutenant Alan Peterson over and over. They saw children turn to dust. They heard parents scream for their lost sons and daughters. The pain turned to anger. The anger turned to resolve. The United Nations Security Council met in an emergency session that had lasted for 72 hours straight. Leaders from every nation sat around the large circular table, their faces showing little sleep and much grief. Admiral Frank Gardner stood at the center of the room. His uniform was wrinkled. His eyes were red. He had not left the council chamber since the news arrived. "The death toll is final," he said, his voice rough from too much talking and too little rest. 800,000 children, not one over the age of 17, not one under the age of 4. The Empire targeted them specifically. President Sophia Reyes of the United Earth Government rubbed her eyes. "Why? Why target only the children?" Dr. Olivia Martinez stepped forward. As head of Earth Defense, she had studied alien species for 20 years. "They targeted our children first because they fear what humanity might become," she said. Her voice was steady, but tears stained her cheeks. "The Gersian Empire has existed for 12,000 years by systematically eliminating any species that might one day challenge their dominion." She touched a control pad and images appeared on the wall screens. Dozens of alien worlds, all barren and lifeless. Our deep space probes found these planets over the last century. We thought they were natural disasters. Now we know better. These were all civilizations the Empire destroyed when they became too advanced. Admiral Gardner nodded grimly. They attacked New Horizon as a warning. They expect us to surrender out of fear. He looked around the room. I think it's time we showed them how humans respond to threats against our children. President Reyes stood up. Her decision was made. Activate Project Nemesis. Those 3 words sent a wave of movement through the room. Military officers rushed to communication stations. Security codes were entered. Deep beneath the council chamber, computers woke up and began sending signals to hidden places around Earth. In orbit above Earth, 27 objects that had appeared to be small asteroids suddenly changed. The rocky surfaces fell away, revealing sleek black platforms. Each one was a mile long and shaped like an arrowhead. They had been hidden in plain sight for 50 years, disguised to look like space debris. Defense Secretary William Howard watched from the council chamber as the platforms moved into position. For 50 years we've known this day might come, he explained. Since first contact with alien life, we've built contingencies. Today we deploy Phase 1. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, the secret research facility called Olympus Prime received authorization to act. The facility was built into the ocean floor, hidden from even the most advanced scanning technology. Inside, 500 scientists had worked for decades on a single project. Dr. Gregory Daniels stood before a massive door marked Prototype Omega. He entered his personal code, pressed his palm to the scanner, and spoke his passphrase. The door slid open, revealing a chamber that glowed with blue light. Inside floated a sphere the size of a basketball. It didn't look impressive, but it was the most powerful weapon humans had ever built. It was designed specifically to counter the Gersians' quantum shielding technology. Begin loading sequence, Dr. Daniels ordered. Prepare for deployment to all defense platforms. On the moon, in a base that did not officially exist, Commander Claire Nelson walked through rows of sleep pods. Each pod held a soldier who had volunteered for the Prometheus Protocol. Their bodies had been enhanced. Their minds had been trained. They were the 13th Sentinel Division, humanity's last defense. Wake them, Commander Nelson ordered. All of them. One by one, the pods opened. Men and women stepped out, fully alert despite years of sleep. They had been waiting for this day. They had trained for it in their dreams. On Earth, Admiral Gardner addressed the United Nations once more. We will respond to this attack, he said. But first, we will offer the Empire one chance to prevent what is coming. A single ship left Earth's orbit. It was small and carried no weapons. Its only purpose was to deliver humanity's message. The Imperial dreadnought harbinger of order, Admiral Zeraxis, received word that a human vessel approached. He smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. He had expected this. The humans would beg for mercy. They would offer surrender. He would accept and then destroy them anyway. That was the Imperial way. Allow the vessel to approach, he ordered. I will hear their pleas myself. The small human ship stopped at a safe distance. A communication request came through. Zeraxis accepted it, ready to enjoy the human's fear. Instead, Admiral Gardner's face appeared on the screen. The human showed no fear, no grief, only a cold determination that made even Zeraxis pause. We are transmitting our response to your Empire's actions at New Horizon, Gardner stated flatly. A data package transferred to the Imperial ship. Zeraxis opened it, expecting terms of surrender. Instead, his 4 eyes widened in shock. The file contained the exact locations of every Gersian homeworld, colony, outpost, and military installation throughout the galaxy. Many were supposed to be completely secret. Some, even the Admiral, didn't know existed. How did you get this information? Zeraxis demanded. Gardner's expression didn't change. For the last 200 years since our first deep space probes detected your Empire's expansion pattern, humanity has been preparing. You believed yourselves undiscovered, watching us from the shadows. In reality, we've been watching you. The data package also contained recordings. They showed Imperial ships destroying 17 other species over the past 1,000 years. Entire civilizations wiped out because they might one day compete with the Empire. We knew your history, Gardner said. We hoped you might have evolved, beyond genocide. We were prepared to coexist peacefully. The human admiral pressed a button and a new image appeared. It showed Earth's orbit where the Nemesis platforms were now visible. What you're seeing is not our offensive capability, Gardner explained. It's simply our first layer of defense. Zaraxis tried to look unimpressed, but his inner eyelids blinked rapidly, a sign of Gurzian stress. Gardner continued, his voice as cold as space itself. You have murdered our children. There will be a response. But first, humanity offers the Empire a single chance. Remove all Imperial forces from human space immediately. Any Gurzian vessel, outpost, or personnel remaining in our territory in 24 hours will be eliminated. Zaraxis laughed, trying to hide his unease. You overestimate yourselves, humans. The Empire spans half the galaxy. Your species is confined to a handful of worlds. You misunderstand, Gardner replied. We're not describing the boundaries of our territory. We're establishing them. Effective immediately. Any star system within 100 light-years of a human settlement is now human territory. Withdraw or be removed. As the transmission ended, Zaraxis received an urgent message from his sensor officer. Hundreds of previously undetected human ships had suddenly appeared throughout Imperial space. Each one was positioned near a critical Imperial installation. Power plants, defense systems, government centers. For the first time in his long career, Admiral Zaraxis felt something close to fear. The humans had not been as helpless as the Empire believed. They had been waiting, watching, preparing, and now they were ready to respond. Emperor Vorgath's palace on the Gurzian homeworld was built to inspire fear. Tall black towers reached toward the sky. Statues of conquered species lined the entrance. The throne room could hold 1,000 people, but today only the High Command was present. Emperor Vorgath sat on his throne made from the bones of the first species the Empire had destroyed. His skin was pale gray. His 4 eyes glowed with rage. On the screens around him, reports showed human ships appearing throughout Imperial space. How is this possible? He demanded. How could they hide so many ships from our sensors? Grand Marshal Vorn, the highest military leader, bowed low. We don't know, Emperor. Their technology must be more advanced than we thought. More advanced? Emperor Vorgath stood up, his claws extending in anger. They are supposed to be primitives. We have existed for 12,000 years. They have barely left their planet. Imperial scientist Kexathara stepped forward. She was smaller than the other Gurzians, but her mind was sharper. Emperor, I have analyzed the data on the human defense platforms. They are unlike anything we have seen before. She touched a control, and an image of one of Earth's Nemesis platforms appeared in the air. They're not using standard shields or armor, she explained. The entire structure appears to manipulate the fundamental constants of physics in its proximity. Our weapons may not work against them. Emperor Vorgath hissed in frustration. Admiral Zaraxis assured me the humans would surrender. That destroying their young would break their will. It appears to have had the opposite effect, Grand Marshal Vorn said quietly. Meanwhile, on the remote Imperial mining world of Dracaris VII, the native population watched as a single human ship appeared in orbit. The Dracarians were a peaceful people who had been conquered by the Empire 500 years ago. They were forced to mine their planet's valuable minerals for their Gurzian masters. 3 Imperial defense ships approached the human vessel. The largest Imperial ship sent a message. You are in Imperial space. Surrender or be destroyed. The human ship responded with a simple message of its own. This is your evacuation notice. You have 6 hours to leave human territory. On the Imperial command ship, Captain Drez laughed. Human territory? This planet has belonged to the Empire for 5 centuries. He ordered his ships to attack. The Imperial vessels fired their most powerful weapons at the human ship. Their beams hit what looked like empty space around the human vessel. The energy simply disappeared. The human ship didn't fire back. Instead, it launched a small probe toward the system's sun. The probe was no bigger than a car. The Imperial ships ignored it, focusing their attack on the main human vessel. A minute later, alarms sounded across all Imperial ships. Their sensors detected a massive change in the sun's energy output. "What's happening?" Captain Dres demanded. His science officer looked up from her screen, her 4 eyes wide with fear. "The sun's fusion reaction has been altered. Solar flares are forming. Enormous tongues of plasma erupted from the sun. They moved like living things, reaching across space. The Imperial ships tried to escape, but the solar flares caught them. Captain Dres watched in horror as the flares melted his ships. Yet something strange happened. The flares avoided the areas of the planet where the native Dracarians lived. They only struck the Imperial mining operations and military bases. In less than an hour, every Imperial structure on Dracaris 7th was destroyed. Not one Dracarian was harmed. The human ship sent a final message before disappearing. "The Gersian Empire no longer controls this world. People of Dracaris, you are free." Similar scenes played out across dozens of Imperial worlds. Human ships appeared, gave warnings, and then demonstrated power the Empire couldn't match. They didn't kill unnecessarily. They targeted Imperial control systems, not populations. Each time, they left the same message for the conquered species. You are free. Back in the Imperial Palace, Emperor Vorgath received reports of these attacks. His rage grew with each new loss. "Send every available ship," he ordered. "Destroy these humans before they free more worlds." Imperial Intelligence Director Malchior approached the throne. Unlike the military leaders, he didn't wear armor. His job was to gather information, not fight battles. "Emperor, I have discovered something disturbing about the humans," he said. "We've been monitoring them for centuries, yet somehow missed their true development." He showed the Emperor images from Earth's past. "They've been hiding their capabilities, knowing we were watching. What we saw as primitive technology was just what they wanted us to see." The intelligence report revealed more shocking news. Human DNA showed evidence of deliberate self-modification dating back thousands of years. What the Empire had taken as natural evolution was actually carefully guided development. "They've been preparing for this confrontation since before they developed spaceflight," Malchior explained. Another report arrived from the Imperial Science Division. They had recovered historical records from Earth showing centuries of stories about alien invasions and humanity's response. "They've been psychologically preparing their species for interstellar conflict for generations," Malchior said. "The massacre we committed wasn't just a crime. It was a terrible strategic error." On Earth, Admiral Gardner met with President Reyes and the United Nations Security Council. The room was tense as they watched reports of human ships disabling Imperial outposts across the galaxy. "The prototype Omega weapons are working better than expected," Admiral Gardner reported. "We can manipulate stars to create precisely targeted solar flares. The Empire has no defense against this." Dr. Olivia Martinez showed images of freed planets. "We've liberated 23 worlds so far. The native species are grateful. Many are offering to join us against the Empire." President Reyes nodded. "And what about New Horizon? Any survivors?" Admiral Gardner's face grew sad. "A few adults who weren't at the education centers. About 3,000 people out of a population of 90,000. All of them lost children." Secretary William Howard spoke up. "We should destroy the Empire completely. After what they did to our children, they deserve no mercy." The room grew quiet. Everyone felt the same anger, the same desire for total revenge. But President Reyes shook her head. "If we destroy them completely, we become what they are," she said. "We will make them pay for New Horizon. We will free every world they've conquered. But we will not commit genocide, even against those who committed it against us." Admiral Gardner nodded in agreement. "We're better than they are. That's why we'll win." As they spoke, the 13th Sentinel Division was boarding advanced ships. Commander Claire Nelson addressed her enhanced soldiers. "You were created for this moment," she told them. "Today we take the fight directly to the Imperial Palace, not for revenge, but for justice. Remember New Horizon, but remember also who we are." The soldiers placed their hands over their hearts and spoke as one. We are humanity's shield. We protect. We defend. We remember. Their ships vanished into faster-than-light travel, heading for the heart of the Gursian Empire. Admiral Zeraxis paced the bridge of the Harbinger of Order. His fleet of 50 ships was the strongest in the Empire, but now it felt small. Human vessels had appeared throughout Imperial space. His own scouts reported that Earth's defenses were unlike anything the Empire had ever faced. Admiral, we've lost contact with the mining colony on Dracaris 7, reported his communications officer. All Imperial bases there have been destroyed. Zeraxis slammed his fist on a control panel. These humans must be stopped. Prepare the battle group for attack. We will strike directly at Earth. His second-in-command looked worried. Admiral, the Emperor has ordered all ships to defend the homeworld. We are to return immediately. No, Zeraxis hissed. I started this war. I will finish it. The humans must learn fear. He turned to his weapons officer. Prepare the quantum drives. We will jump directly to Earth and destroy their defense platforms before they can react. The Imperial ships formed into attack position. Their quantum drives began to power up. These engines could move ships through space almost instantly, allowing surprise attacks that enemies couldn't defend against. Zeraxis felt confident. The humans couldn't possibly know about the attack he was planning. He would arrive at Earth, destroy their defenses, and force their surrender. Quantum jump in 3, 2, 1, counted the navigation officer. At that exact moment, something impossible happened. Every system on every ship in Zeraxis's fleet failed simultaneously. The quantum drives didn't just shut down. They imploded, creating tiny black holes inside each vessel. Zeraxis had just enough time to realize what was happening before his flagship collapsed from the inside out. His last thought was confusion. How could the humans have known? The answer was simpler than he could have imagined. For 200 years, human intelligence had studied Imperial technology. They had discovered a fatal flaw in the quantum drive design. They had never shared this knowledge, saving it for when it would be needed most. 50 Imperial ships and 50,000 Imperial troops simply vanished. No distress calls were sent. No debris remained. It was as if they had never existed. No. The Gursian homeworld, Emperor Vorgoth received the news of Zeraxis's destruction with shock. The Admiral's entire battle group was gone without a trace. How? He demanded. How did they do this? Before anyone could answer, the palace alarms sounded. On the screens, dozens of human ships appeared in orbit around the Imperial capital. They had somehow bypassed all the planet's defenses. The Emperor's guards surrounded him, ready to fight to the death. But the human ships didn't attack. Instead, they sent a message directly to the palace. Commander Claire Nelson's face appeared on the main screen. She wore the uniform of the 13th Sentinel Division. Her eyes were calm but determined. Emperor Vorgoth, she said, your empire has committed crimes against countless species, including humanity. Today, those crimes end. Vorgoth stood tall, trying to hide his fear. You cannot defeat an empire that has stood for 12,000 years. We will destroy you, just as we destroyed your children. Commander Nelson's expression didn't change. You misunderstand our purpose. We are not here to destroy you. We are here to free those you have enslaved and to ensure you never harm another species again. Around the Imperial Palace, human soldiers from the 13th Sentinel Division appeared, as if from nowhere. They moved faster than normal humans should be able to move. Their skin seemed to absorb light, making them difficult to see clearly. Imperial guards fired their weapons, but the energy beams passed through the human soldiers without effect. Within minutes, the humans had control of the entire palace. Not one shot had been fired. Not one life had been taken. In the throne room, Commander Nelson stood before Emperor Vorgoth. She was half his size, but he was the one who trembled. How is this possible? He asked. What are you? We are what humanity created to protect itself, she answered simply. We knew the Empire would come for us eventually. We prepared. On Earth, the United Council of Humanity convened to determine the Empire's fate. Leaders from every nation sat in the great chamber. Among them were survivors from New Horizon, parents who had lost their children in the massacre. Admiral Gardner presented the strategic options. We have control of the Imperial Palace and most of their key military installations. We can destroy them completely if we choose. Dr. Nicole Patel stepped forward. Her twin daughters had been among the children killed on New Horizon. As head of the Xenocultural Understanding Division, she had studied the Empire for years. Empire has dominated through fear and genocide for 12,000 years, she said, her voice steady despite her pain. Their culture knows nothing else. The question isn't whether we have the right to end them, but whether we have the wisdom to show them another way. President Reyes nodded. What do you suggest, Doctor? We offer them terms, strict terms that will prevent them from harming others, but terms that allow them to continue to exist. Around the room, many faces showed doubt or anger. A father from New Horizon stood up. They murdered our children, he shouted. Why should they be shown mercy, when they showed none? Dr. Patel looked at him with understanding. Because if we destroy them, we become what they are. Our children wouldn't want that. The room grew quiet as her words sank in. Even those filled with rage understood the truth in what she said. President Reyes made her decision. We will offer terms, but they will be terms that ensure the Empire can never threaten another species again. The Council's decision was transmitted simultaneously to every Imperial world. The massacre of New Horizon has been answered. Admiral Xeraxis and his fleet no longer exist. Your Emperor now understands humanity's true capability. We will not commit genocide against your species as you have done to so many others. Instead, we offer terms. The Empire will withdraw from all territories belonging to other sentient species. You will provide reparations to the surviving families of New Horizon. You will open your historical archives regarding all species you have eliminated. In return, humanity will not dismantle your civilization. We will share limited technological and cultural exchange. You may keep your emperor and your systems of government, but genocidal actions against any species will trigger an immediate response. We do not wish to rule you. We wish to free the galaxy from your rule. Make your choice. In the Imperial Palace, Emperor Vorgath read the terms. His advisors urged him to fight to the end, but he had seen humanity's power. He had witnessed what they could do. How can we accept such terms? Asked Grand Marshal Vorn. It would be the end of the Empire as we know it. Emperor Vorgath looked out at the human ships in orbit. He thought of Admiral Xeraxis's fleet, gone without a trace. He thought of 12,000 years of Imperial history. The alternative is the end of the Empire completely, he said quietly. We have no choice. For the first time in 12,000 years, the Gersian Empire would know peace, not conquest. The age of imperial expansion was over, and it had ended because they had made one terrible mistake. They had harmed humanity's children. 1 year after the New Horizon massacre, the galaxy had changed completely. The Gersian Empire still existed, but it was no longer an empire of conquest. Its borders had shrunk to its original homeworlds. The thousands of planets it had conquered, over 12,000 years, were free again. On Earth, a memorial to the children of New Horizon stood in every major city. 800,000 small lights, one for each lost child, glowed day and night. Humanity would never forget what had happened, but they had chosen to move forward without letting hate consume them. Captain Samantha Wright, one of the few survivors from New Horizon, stood before the United Council of Humanity. She had been promoted to admiral after the conflict, tasked with leading humanity's new peacekeeping fleet. The transition is proceeding as planned, she reported. 47 formerly conquered species have formed their own governments. 33 have asked for human assistance or protection. None have chosen to continue relations with the Empire. President Reyes nodded. And the reparations? The Empire is complying, Admiral Wright said. They've provided the resources we demanded for the New Horizon survivors. They've also opened their historical archives as required. Dr. Olivia Martinez stepped forward with a data tablet. Those archives have revealed something disturbing, Madam President. In its 12,000-year history, the Empire destroyed over 300 sentient species completely. Some were even more advanced than humanity. A murmur ran through the council chamber. 300 species, gone forever. The scale of the Empire's crimes was even greater than they had imagined. Why? Asked President Reyes. Why destroy so many civilizations? Dr. Nicole Patel, who had argued for mercy despite losing her daughters in the massacre, offered an answer. Fear. The Empire was built on the belief that only by eliminating all potential rivals could they ensure their own survival. They saw cooperation as weakness. President Reyes shook her head sadly. They never understood that true strength comes from working together, not destroying others. On the former imperial world of Dracaris A7, a different kind of meeting was taking place. Representatives from 20 different species gathered in what had once been an imperial mining complex. Now it was the first Galactic Cooperation Center. Commander Claire Nelson of the 13th Sentinel Division had been sent to oversee security. She watched as species that had been enemies under imperial rule learned to work together. The Dracarians, with their 4 arms and crystalline skin, had invited all neighboring species to discuss trade and mutual defense. Among them were the Voltar, who breathed methane instead of oxygen, and the Keth, who communicated through color changes in their fur. This would never have been possible under the Empire, said Kren, the Dracarian leader. They kept us fighting each other so we couldn't unite against them. Commander Nelson nodded. That's a common tactic of oppressors. Divide those you wish to control. Kren looked at her with his faceted eyes. May I ask you something, Commander? Why didn't humanity destroy the Empire completely? After what they did to your children, no one would have blamed you. Claire thought carefully before answering. Because destruction is easy. Building something better is hard. We chose the harder path. In another part of the galaxy, Dr. Gregory Daniels, creator of the prototype Omega weapon, was leading a different kind of project. His team had discovered ancient ruins on a world the Empire had claimed was uninhabited. These structures are at least 50,000 years old, he told Admiral Gardner over a secure communication link, and they contain technology far beyond even what we currently possess. Admiral Gardner frowned. Could this be why the Empire claimed this world? To hide this technology? I believe so, Dr. Daniels replied. But there's more. We've found references to something called the precursors. According to these records, they were a species that seeded the galaxy with life billions of years ago. Are they still out there? Admiral Gardner asked. Dr. Daniels shook his head. We don't know yet, but if they are, they might be watching what we do with the galaxy now that the Empire's reign has ended. Back on the Gersian homeworld, Emperor Vorgath faced growing unrest. Many Imperial citizens were angry about the new limitations on their power. Some called for rebellion against the human terms. We should fight, shouted one general during a council meeting. We have ruled the galaxy for 12,000 years. We cannot accept being confined to a few planets. Emperor Vorgath silenced him with a look. You did not see what I saw. You did not witness their power. If we fight, we die. All of us. But they are just one species, another counselor argued. We have dominated hundreds. They are not like the others, Vorgath said, quietly. When we destroyed their children, they could have destroyed us completely. Instead, they showed mercy. That is a kind of strength we have never understood. He turned to his council, his 4 eyes reflecting the light strangely. For 12,000 years, we have only known how to conquer and destroy. Perhaps it is time we learned something new. On a small green planet at the edge of what had once been Imperial space, a group of survivors from New Horizon had established a new colony. They named it Remember. Among them was a man named Ben Miller, who had been Officer Miller at the New Horizon security outpost. He had lost his wife and 3 children in the massacre. For months, he had been consumed by hate and thoughts of revenge. Now, he stood on a hill, watching children from 5 different species playing together in the valley below. Some were human. Others were from worlds the Empire had conquered. All were orphans from the conflict. A Dracarian child fell and began to cry. A human girl helped her up and hugged her until the tears stopped. Together they rejoined the game. "Is this what you wanted to show me?" asked Dr. Nicole Patel, who had come to visit the colony. Ben nodded. "When you argued for mercy, I hated you. I wanted the Empire destroyed completely, but now I understand." "What do you understand?" Nicole asked gently. "That this is the best revenge," Ben said, gesturing to the playing children. "Creating something they could never imagine. Something better than what was lost." Across the galaxy, on thousands of worlds, similar scenes played out. Species that had been enemies learned to be neighbors. Knowledge that had been hoarded was freely shared. The fall of the Empire had created an opportunity for something new to arise. On Earth, Admiral Gardner and President Reyes stood at the New Horizon Memorial. 800,000 lights glowed in the darkness. "Do you think we made the right choice?" President Reyes asked quietly. Admiral Gardner watched the lights for a long moment before answering. "I think we made the human choice, and that's why we won." Above them, the stars shone brightly, and somewhere among those stars, other civilizations were hearing humanity's message, broadcast on all frequencies. To all sentient beings, humanity extends its hand in friendship. The long night of imperial dominance is ending. Those who wish peaceful relations will find in us allies. Those who wish conflict will find us formidable. The choice, as always, is yours.